Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for joining. Yes, I am Joy Apple. We're going to talk about staying live in a virtual world. Please feel free to go to chat with your questions. When we get to the end, we can always unmute, have conversation and all that. But if you ask me something in line, I may forget where I was if we wait till the end. Or I said, if you don't, I should say. So we got this. Well, again, thank you, thank you. And if we have never met before, Joy Apple, I am Chief of Operations at Pate Group and am also a practicing modern work specialist. I've been working with Microsoft products and technologies for over 13 years now. And I have to say, this is the most exciting time to be in the platform. And it just gets better and better every day. Yes, we have our moments where we all think, why did Microsoft do this or why didn't they do that? But when you think about what we used to have to just struggle with so much just a few years ago, wow, we've come a long way. Okay, I'll stop geeking out about that. I'm going to show this slide at the end, but in case you like to be prepared, you want to go ahead and snag that QR code. Please, please, please rate the session, attend other sessions, go to social media, all the good stuff. But thank you. Thank you for being here. All right, let's get to the good stuff. Staying live in a virtual world. Yeah, it's hard these days. I mean, we've always had a little bit of a struggle, but nothing like what we've been facing for the last couple of years. If we're being honest with ourselves, we always dreamed about what working from home would look like, right? Not having to get up an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours before work, not having to waste the time, quote unquote, waste the time driving home and dealing with traffic in the evenings. We just wake up, have our coffee, it would be leisurely, maybe cook a beautiful breakfast, stroll into our home office, pants optional, and just have a just perfect work day. Heck, you can stay ahead of your household chores because, oh, I've got a break between meetings. I'll just go throw some laundry in the wash or go walk the dog. Hey, you don't have to pay for doggy daycare anymore, right? It was going to be a beautiful utopian world. Much better focus. You're more productive because, that one guy who honestly was typically me wasn't stopping by to distract you with another pointless conversation, right? It was going to be amazing if only we could just work from home. But a lot of us, at some point or another in our careers, had the boss or we're in an organization where telecommuting was just not a thing, or it was a very rare privilege. A lot of companies, and I've been consultants and I've been full-time employees at companies that were just very, very suspicious if they could not see you working at your desk. I'd be curious, show of hands, anybody in, or have we been in that situation where it's like, well, how do we know you're doing your job if you're not seated at your desk all the time, right? And then you were somewhere we're like, oh, we used to could do that. But then Joy, she just was this way and she just messed it up for everybody. So there was a variety of opinions, attitudes, and policies in place, but it really was an exception, not a rule. But then, but then, 2 years ago, there was a rapid, neck-breaking pace to go to the cloud, and about 44 million office workers were sent home. If I can't see you, you must not be working. Yes, Charles, that's exactly the mentality. Until March of 2020, right? We all remember that. It was crazy. It was hectic. In November, the fall, before COVID hit, there were about 20 million Microsoft 365 users logging in any given day. December of 2020, that had jumped to over 115 million. So that shows the impact of where we were before COVID hit. And, that number is higher now, where we are as the result of us all getting pushed out of our offices. And it's really interesting. As human beings, I think we tend to have a short memory span. I was on site teaching just a couple of weeks ago, kind of showing the differences between online office applications and the desktop applications, your client applications. And I had someone ask, why would I ever need a cloud version of Word or Excel? And my example was, maybe a little too sarcastically, well, let's pretend that suddenly you couldn't get to your office. Suddenly you couldn't get to your computer, and for some reason you didn't have your laptop with you. You would have the ability to work no matter where you were. Let's pretend you got locked out of your office for 2 weeks and everyone in the room was like, oh, right? But we tend to forget as we're settling into what we're all calling this new normal, as if there was ever an old normal, right? So let's talk about some of the research that we've been doing. So end of 2020, early 2021, Microsoft and the Boston Consulting Group talked to 9,000 managers and employees across 15 European countries. And we're not terribly shocked by this, but to see the numbers written down, it's pretty startling. 15% had flexible work policies before the pandemic. 15. That felt a little low to me, but of course I'm a little spoiled, having been in IT for so long and working for a consulting company. By the summer 2020, that jumped to 76%. So that's a pretty significant increase. And a lot of our folks, and I see you guys talking in chat about it, a lot of people were shocked that productivity did not drop, because we had that old school management mentality. Well, if I can't see you working, how do I know you're working, right? Checking in with other managers to find out if you actually had come in for the day, right? Because if you're not at your desk, how do we know you're working? In fact, the mid-COVID, some people say we're at the end of COVID now. I hope so. I don't know. But mid-COVID was pretty surprising because our productivity had increased. Some studies showed as much as 13%. I personally feel that number is probably low. I feel it was much more than 13% for a lot of us. And remote workers were actually kind of working a little too much. Anybody feel like there was a little bit of burnout happening a few months, a year into the pandemic? I know I personally kind of hit a brick wall and I needed to step back and take a little bit of time. Even though it was a staycation, I still needed to step back. So we proved, just without a doubt, that working from home does not reduce productivity. Sure, there's always going to be a few people that just need a little supervision. But I think we all have lived through where we sit down, we start our day, and then we look up and, oh, it's dark outside. Oh, I forgot to eat. I know to get up because my dogs come in and pitch a fit that I haven't let them out in hours, right? We sit down and we are just overwhelmed with work. In fact, in 2020, going into 2021, the average work from home employee had an extra 67 hours of meetings. We already had too many meetings, honestly. Then we got an extra 67 hours. And focusing was so hard because you're sitting down and, right, we all shifted to Teams if we hadn't already been in Teams. But now everything coming to us is a notification of some sort. You know, a knock on the door was an interruption, but it typically was an extended one where you would have a conversation and go back and refocus. Well, now it's 5 or 6 pings every 10, 15 minutes. Meeting fatigue is rampant and we're disconnected. Even in the organizations where people are starting to return to work or have returned to work, there's still a feeling of disconnect because sometimes we're on rotating schedules or we've gotten so used to just kind of working in our own little bubble. That feeling of connection hasn't come back. Mostly because it wasn't supposed to happen that way, right? We were not prepared to just suddenly get kicked out of the office. Our homes were not ready either. I have colleagues that still are working from their kitchen table because like, oh, well, any minute now we'll be back at home or back at the office, right? So they've not really invested in creating that more comfortable workspace. Our business systems were sure as heck not prepared. How many of us either dealt with personally or helped a client deal with the fact that the VPN crashed and crashed hard those first few weeks in 2020 when we all got sent home? because they were never meant for every employee in the organization to be on them all the time. So what did? We grabbed everything and just shoved it over into SharePoint and Teams. Yeah, and now we're dealing with that. And it feels like where there's no clear line between working from home or living at work. I'm very blessed. I have a nice little home office with a door. And at the end of my day, which, kind of, it's flexible depending on the day, but I try really hard whenever I wrap up to walk out of this office and not come back in until it's time to start work again the next day. But if we're still living or in a situation where our home office is the dining room table, the kitchen island, a nook in the living room, that's not quite so clear a delineation. And the reality of work from home is hectic schedules. In fact, this was a screenshot I took of my calendar. There was actually an amazingly open hour here. But you see, I started building in sanity breaks. And that was a flag to my project manager. I need this minute. I'm cracking up. Do not give me a 15-minute ad hoc meeting, right? When do you go to the bathroom when your day looks like this? You don't. You join late because you run out and you run back in, right? Hectic. Of course, we all have animals that like to help, and kids, of course. It's wonderful. I love that the culture has shifted such. The new rule for me in meetings, I have a customer that started this, is if a pet makes its presence known on camera, they must be introduced. And I think that is phenomenal. I think the same should hold true with kids. A wonderful moment happened last year. I was working with a customer in Ireland, and it was his little girl's bedtime, about the time he and I were having a meeting, right? Because he was being very gracious and working with me for scheduling. His little girl brought her stuffed giraffe and climbed right up in his lap and sat there, and just that was her wind down time with her dad as we closed a meeting. And I thought that was amazing. So there are some great things that have happened. I think we've become more accepting of the fact that employees are people, our coworkers are people. We have kids, we have spouses, we have family that live in our homes, our parents, siblings, pets. But the distractions are off the chart. Whether it's our wonderful pets, this is actually my cat helping me work right here, our children, digital notifications that never stop, and all those meetings. So what do? How do we create this, if not distance, padding between ourselves and the work world? And how do we not become so overloaded and bogged down that we're just frazzled? My frazzle moment happened probably about May, maybe June of 2020. My schedule was crazy. I was helping customers get things into SharePoint, come off the file share. I was doing a ton of training on how to use Teams, right? But I kept seeing on social media all the quarantine and chill gifs and memes and people talking about, oh, you haven't come out of my pajamas all week. And I got a little angry about that. So I got in touch with my manager at the time. I said, I need to take Friday off. It's a relatively clear day. I can rearrange things, but I need to have my own quarantine and chill day or I think I'm going to lose my mind. And I did, right? I took the day. I did nothing. I think I had a bottle of wine knocked out by lunchtime. It was fabulous, but just that break where I did not log into Teams, I did not check email, and I was not responsible for anything, became a really good reset for my mind, my body, and my spirit. But we can't do that all the time, right? We do have full-time jobs. So what do? The number one piece of advice is to turn on the webcam. Might seem a little obvious, might seem a little ambitious, it might seem a little daunting, but when we reduce to just voice or just black and white communication in chat, we become even more distant from people. I will say I didn't use my webcam near as much before COVID as I did once it hit, because I immediately felt disconnected from people because I wasn't traveling anymore and I wasn't meeting my customers face to face anymore. So actually within probably the first week, my webcam was on all the time because I wanted to get the body language. I wanted to kind of make eye contact. I wanted to feel like I was connecting face to face. If you're in larger meetings, and we know Microsoft's been telling us this for a while, but the together mode will feel more natural, less clinical or disconnected than that grid Brady Bunch view. Personally, it kind of weirds me out because it feels odd to see myself sitting in that room in that together mode. That's just a personal preference for me. So turning on the webcam, definitely you get that connection back. And if it's an introductory meeting, I think it's vital because now you're actually meeting the person in a way and getting a feel for their cues. Maybe we would call them their tells, and we're just connecting in a more human fashion. But the flip side of that, turn that webcam off. There is no need to feel like you are on stage or in a spotlight every moment of your workday. And if you're like me, most of your workday is meetings. It's exhausting to sit in one spot and stare at this large disconnected head for many hours at a time. Not only is it unnatural, but it's also psychologically stressful to make sustained eye contact for extended periods of time. There was a study done and it shows that if that happened, like as you were just walking down the street and someone's just making that intense eye contact with you, you'll start to feel threatened. They'll start to feel threatened, right? That's a very intimidating thing. So the way we kind of do the meetings, it's not natural. So give yourself an excuse to take a break. I'm not on camera today because I had a procedure done yesterday. And when they said minimal downtime, what they actually should have said is if you go in public, you'll scare small children and animals, right? You know, you do what you got to do. We just roll with it. So connect with people, but give yourself a break. I'll have no webcam days if I know I'm not meeting with customers or making introductions. It's like, hey, hair's in a ponytail. I'm not going to do my makeup today. I'm just going to chill. It helps recharge. Another thing we can do is make sure we're using the right tool for the right job. Sounds obvious, but it's a little bit tricky because we feel like all these tools kind of do the same thing. And if we want to get rid of the audience or the scope in which we implement SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, Yammer, Outlook, they kind of have a lot of similarities. It feels like their paths cross a little bit too much. But all these notifications, all these pings and dings that we get all day long, do we actually need every one of them? Or some of them notifications that we want. It's things we want to know about. I want to know when one of my colleagues has a work anniversary or a birthday, but is that something I need to be interrupted for when I'm heads down working on something? If we examine Microsoft's modern collaborative architecture content, they can help really give us good guidance to using the right tool for the right job. When we do that, our focus increases. And the more we can increase our focus, actually, and I learned this for myself the hard way during the pandemic, increased focus means reduced frustration, reduced irritation, and reduced burnout. Because every time you get interrupted, your brain has to kind of start over when you go back to focus. And when that happens repeatedly throughout the day, your brain, your mind gets frazzled. It's harder to jump back in and you start getting frustrated. And for me, frustration leads to anger, and anger leads to the dark side, right? We all learned that from Star Wars. So really embracing the guidance that Microsoft gives us helps us create a work landscape that's just healthier. Teams is for teamwork. We all know that. And we love Teams. We are here today because we are part of hashtag Teams Nation. We love Teams. It has helped us work better and smarter over the last 5 years. It's phenomenal. But not everything needs to be in Teams, because Teams is where I work. Teams is where I come together with departments, with my project groups, and we get stuff done. That's where my task-based work happens. If I don't do the things that I'm supposed to do that are coming out of Teams, it means I'm not doing my job. Yammer, and I don't see everybody's camera, right, because we don't all have our cameras on. So I don't know who rolled their eyes when I said Yammer. Yammer is for communities. This is where we put the things that we want to know about, the things we want to be involved in, the areas of interest or areas of learning, or maybe inside of your organization you have volunteer opportunities, things you do out in your human community at large. That's where Yammer shines. And now as an employee, when a notification comes to me from Teams, that's where my task-based work happens. My brain goes, oh, this notification is coming from Teams. It's obviously work related, right? It just knows. The weight of it comes through. When I see a Yammer notification, my brain automatically has deprioritized that. So the interruption isn't as high because it goes, oh, okay, I'll check on that later, right? That's one reason why notifying people with the app mentions when you make a message in Teams is so important. Tell them what team it's coming from. Tell them what channel in the team it's coming from, so they have some context to know if that's something they need to jump on right now or if they can wait a few minutes. But by divvying up those notifications, everything's not coming at us with the same weight. And it really helps reduce the overall fatigue of the notifications. We also don't want to make or let our notifications manage us. I'm kind of preaching at myself here. I definitely have FOMO, fear of missing out. And if something's happening, I want to know and I want to be involved and I want to be the first person to respond with the best gift, right? That's just in my nature. But do I really need a notification for everything? Probably not. Actually, let me walk that back. Definitely not. So if you've never done this before, if you've never gone into Teams and clicked in the settings and gone to notifications, I encourage you to do so. Because you can come in and say, all right, do I want to get an email if I've missed a message in Teams? You can say like, yes, immediately. If I haven't read something within 90 seconds in Teams, send me an email. That seems kind of crazy to me. You can also say just once every 24 hours, send me a rundown of the stuff that I've missed inside of Teams. I have mine once every hour because I travel and I want to make sure I can kind of stay in touch with these things. And I can come into Teams and I can misclick on my slides. Let's back that up one. There we go. I personally do want banner and feed for anything where someone at mentions me, because if they're saying at Joy Apple, it's probably really important. Now, if someone replies to a conversation I've started, I've got that set to only show in my feed. Same with conversations where I replied, likes and reactions. I don't need a pop-up. We used to call that toast, right? Because it would kind of like a piece of bread popping up out of a toaster. I don't need that notification that somebody thumbs up or made an angry face or laughed at something I said. And maybe this is wrong. I really don't care what's trending in Teams because I'm in almost every team, so I kind of know what's going on. But you can come in here and create very distinct notifications to make sure notifications are not driving you crazy. You can also, if you're in a team, and you're not super active there, you're just there because whatever, you don't want to leave the team because sometimes you need to have eyes on it, you can always hide it. And if they mention you directly, you'll get that notification. Otherwise, the notifications coming out of it will be muted. Same with channels. I'm in a couple of dev-focused channels in some of our teams at Pate Group. I have those hidden. If they need me, they'll mention me. I'll come in, help test, run through things, bounce ideas off, but I'm not getting spammed with those notifications that really don't impact me day by day. So those are some of the ways you can just keep those notifications from ruling your life and from constantly being a source of interruption. Also say, is anyone here using focus time? The Viva Insights email that comes out that encourages you to go block focus time on your calendar? No one, really? Okay, folks, let's talk about this. Yes, yay. Okay, woo. I was getting worried about you all. This is magic. I will also say I'm kind of bad about blocking over my focus time sometimes. So do as I say, not as I do. This is magical. To be able to come in here and it mutes your notifications for you, right? It can kind of give you an island of sanity in a very busy week. Now, I will say, if you let Viva Insights go nuts and block out everything that it wants to block, it'll block 2 hours a day for focus time. I think 2 15-minute breaks, 30 minutes, either once or twice a day to check your email, which I tend to do in my focus time anyway. I'm not sure if that's right or wrong, but that's what I do. I once did that. I just let it go in. It was when we still called it Cortana. Go in and block everything it wanted to. And my project manager freaked out. Just, I can't find time for any meetings. So we had to walk that back a little bit. But this focus time, I'm working on creating a culture at Pate Group where we all utilize focus time. I encourage my team as well. Block your focus time and close Outlook. Turn off your notifications and step away from email. Saw the applause there. Yes, we're not slaves to our inbox. And if we're acting like that, maybe we need to kind of try to set some boundaries. Not all bosses agree. Not all customers or clients agree, right? So we have to navigate that carefully. Give yourself time to focus. I accidentally shut Outlook down one day and I didn't open it up for about 2 hours. It was amazing the things I got done. And guess what? Nobody died. Nobody's tenant burned down. There were no SharePoint emergencies. Everything was fine. So encourage, try to give yourself time to focus. Give your time to get work done where you're not having that constant barrage of things. Okay, fine. But what about all the meetings? I mean, all the meetings. It feels like a lot. Did anyone see that clip where Elon Musk was saying and at Tesla, if you're sitting in a meeting and you feel like it's pointless for you to be there, you're encouraged to just get up and leave. Nobody takes offense. But yeah, if you're sitting there going, this is a waste of my time. I don't have anything to contribute here. This is outside of my job functions. They just get up and walk out. Can you imagine how liberating that would be? I would also say you better be really sure that you don't need to be there. But I thought that was kind of an interesting approach to meeting culture. All right, I'm going to let this play. I did a little recording of collaborative activity from February 2020 through February 21. This is shocking to me. See a little bit of a dip for the holidays. It looks like it froze. It should pick up, but it's not. That's okay. We're just going to roll with it. 146% increase in meetings. 40 billion increase in emails. 44% increase in chat. 65% number of people working on Office documents is up 66% year over year. We're busy, right? We're doing a lot. And I will say these documents, it starts to get a little chaotic too. Where did Joy share that document with me from? Did she share it in Teams? Did she send it in Outlook? Or is it just somewhere where I already have access to it? Right? It gets a little chaotic if we're not being very clear on which tool we use for what and how things work in the organization. Oh, there it goes. Yay. Yeah. 148% increase in meetings is a lot. It's a lot. So the question starts to come up then, if everything's become a meeting and we're now working in 148% more meetings than ever before, does it really have to be a meeting? Do we really have to break up everybody's day and come together in a meeting every time we want to talk or every time we want to work together on something? Is it okay to use asynchronous communication? Because that's kind of the whole point of having that channel for chat inside of Teams, right? We create a team for that functional business area or that project. We create channels to organize our content and our communication. So our communication can stay much more organized in our channels than if it's just this mishmash of emails going back and forth. If I need to request status updates, I can absolutely do that in a channel, right? I don't have to call a meeting and let everybody sound off and we just kind of stare at each other while the other folks are talking. I can make announcements in my org-wide team to make sure everybody gets it. I don't have to call a meeting for that. You want to brainstorm, right? Share ideas. Have a space dedicated for that. I love the fact inside of Teams that I can use that conversation panel in a document. My coworkers and I use that quite a bit. I might be working on a Word document or a PowerPoint slide, just open it up in Teams, and we have the conversation in chat in the document, and we don't have to have a meeting. And we've started pivoting. Instead of having midweek calls, we do a midweek check-in in Teams. And literally, I'll come in sometime Wednesday, sometimes it's Thursday morning. Hey, how's everybody doing? Does anybody have any blockers? Is there anything you're concerned about? Anybody light on work? Anybody overloaded and we need to shift things around? How's it going? And it gives us a chance to all come together. And yeah, we have fun with the gifts. Absolutely. I only think it's appropriate to use really hilarious gifts. Come together, have the conversation, and it doesn't have to be a meeting, but we're still getting it done. It's pretty fabulous. But yeah, sometimes it has to be a meeting. So how do we make it a better meeting? How many times do you join a meeting in any given week and you're sitting there going, why are we even here? What are we supposed to be doing? What are we talking about? I don't know. It was on my calendar. I just showed up. I don't want to get in trouble if I don't show up. Having an agenda, just setting that expectation goes a long way. I'm not perfect at making sure that's done, but it really truly does go a long way. Who's in charge? Who's leading the meeting? Do our meetings have to be an hour? Something in our brains wants a meeting to be an hour, even if we only need 30 minutes. And gosh darn it, we will suck up that whole hour if we're given a chance to. So maybe we could go in, look at Outlook, and set our meetings to maybe end a little early, or maybe start a few minutes after the hour. Psychologically, if we start a meeting at 10 a.m. and we set it to end at 10:45, psychologically, we don't care if we go over because nothing's really going to happen till the start of the hour anyway. So sure, we can go till 11. But if we started at 10:15 and it ends on the hour, psychologically, we're not going to go over. because it's the hard stop at the beginning of a new hour. We got to go do something else. It feels weird at first. It feels weird to start a meeting 15 minutes into the hour or at 10:35 instead of 10:30. But the way our brains are programmed, we won't go over if we do that. So that's something I'm trying to adopt to keep us from sucking up all that time we really didn't need to. And 45 minutes is my new standard. I don't schedule full hour meetings very often because honestly, we usually don't need them. So I aim for 45 minutes. And if I'm really, really lucky, it may only go 30. If I'm not, it went 45 minutes. And I probably now have a 15-minute break until my next meeting. And that gives me time to kind of refocus, wrap up my notes, and be prepared to actually go calmly to the next meeting instead of just running and jumping and trying to get it all done when I get there. Now I'm actually prepared for it. That makes for a much more peaceful day. Is our meeting going to be hybrid? Back in the day, a whole, 2.5 years ago, it was not uncommon to go, oh, we forgot to put the join link in. And you had that one person that was maybe on travel that needed to join, and it was really not a big deal. More and more, it's going to be a big deal. We want to ensure that there is equality between people joining from on-site and our hybrid colleagues. I'm one of the hybrid colleagues. I will be joining almost 100% of Fake Group meetings remotely because I live 10 hours away from headquarters. So we want to make sure that meeting space accommodates the people that are in person on site and those that are joining remotely. We want to be considerate of that. We don't want to waste anyone's time or have them miss out because we forgot to have the meeting link there. We want to make sure they can be seen. That was set up so everyone can see them and they join on video. Have an agenda that includes the team's meeting notes. So no matter where they're coming from, everyone has equal access to the same content. On-site people and remote people both have time constraints. It's a little bit easier if you're on site to maybe fudge. You don't really have to leave the conference. Next group comes in and starts knocking and kick you out. But people that are remote, they might not be able to have that same leeway to hang out and chit chat because for a good chance they've got another virtual meeting they've got to jump right to. Virtual meetings are a little bit more stressful on us psychologically than in person. So sticking to time, being responsive to our remote and our on-site people and respectful of time goes a long way. And we want to make sure everyone gets heard. It's easy to forget our remote people, especially if they don't have their webcams on. So asking for everyone to raise their hand, whether they're doing it like literally putting their arm in the air on site or using the virtual raise hand feature. Asking that everyone follows the same rules creates a much more equitable landscape for those hybrid meetings. A lot of fun little things about going in and saying, oh, well, all hybrid meetings suck. How do we make ours suck less? Manners, right? Being responsive and respectful of everyone, regardless of where or how they're joining. This is the same slide. I just had to duplicate it. Oops, clicking right along. All right. So the overwhelming increase in meetings, it's overwhelming, and there's no other way to put it. But Viva Insights gives us some really great ways to cope with what's going on. Has anyone ever used the Headspace feature in between meetings to kind of refocus before they jump into a new one? Curious. If you haven't, I encourage you to give it a try. I know some of us, especially I'm gonna out myself here. Some of us of the more technological mindset kind of roll our eyes at this, and I hope that's not insulting to anyone. Let's see. Hey, Jay, I use it at night to chill before bed. Okay. Well, give it a try, Jay. Give it a try. I have found if I've got a hectic meeting day, but I can squeeze in a quick 3 minute. There's a couple 3 minutes. There's a couple like 5 or 6 minutes. But like this one, this focus one, it takes you through a little bit of an exercise. I've started doing that when I have the 3 minutes between meetings and I can still get my meeting notes ready and all that jazz. It's amazing. I just did it because I thought, fine, I'll give it a try. It truly does help you kind of close out the train of thought you were on from that first meeting, and you enter the next one kind of not so much with a clean slate, but you're focused and you're ready to go into that next meeting. It definitely helps release some of the hecticness when you're in those back to back to back to back meetings. If you literally have 2 minutes, I would recommend just kind of going it on your own. Just sit down and maybe walk yourself through a breathing exercise. Honestly, I was skeptical, but I found that it really, truly does help keep you moving in a much more focused way. I agree, John. I agree. It would be nice to have more of these to choose from. I think a nice 60-second one would be great, because sometimes that's literally all we have between meetings, which is not healthy. If a lot of your day looks like meeting, like that screenshot I had earlier, oh, maybe we should evaluate our scheduling habits if we can, if that's within our control. But at the end of the day, using the virtual commute to kind of help you focus and wrap your day can definitely help. Even if you're not a remote worker anymore, if you've gone back to the office, I encourage you to give it a try, because when you go to your virtual commute and you can set the time that it pings you, it literally steps you through closing out your workday. The first thing that it has you do is review your tasks, right? Hey, I completed 3 tasks this day. Awesome. You mark them done. If you got some that didn't get done, you can go set reminders to finish those up the next day, right? And that goes on your to-do. It'll also show up in the Insight briefing email. Once you've closed out those tasks or set reminders for the next day, what was on your mind today that you need to get done tomorrow? When I don't do this, I find for the whole evening, I'm like, okay, tomorrow I have to remember to email this person. I need to get the statement of work done. I need to get ready for the Teams Nation presentation. Okay, I'm going to remember. I might or might not remember. But when you get to this part, you capture those tasks and it goes on to do. I use the board view in Outlook with my calendar and to-dos side by side. Pretty magical. Now you're releasing that energy from your brain so you can enjoy being present with your family instead of thinking, I need to do these things, I need to do these things, I need to do these things. And you sleep better too, because you're not thinking about it all night long. Okay, in the morning, first thing, you've got it all written down and captured. Those new tasks come to your to-do card on the home page if you're using your Viva Connections dashboard. They'll be in to-do, and they'll be on that briefing email. And then it gives you a preview of what's coming up tomorrow. I still tend to pull up my calendar at night right before I go to bed just to kind of look at what my day looks like. Probably should stop doing that. But before you finish your virtual commute, you get that nice little preview, nice little reminder so you feel prepared. And then you can reflect. Did you have an amazing day? It was great. Or it was a good day. Meh, awful. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad it's over. Right? You can kind of do a spectrum of how your day was. And it will encourage you to close your day with meditation. It's not really long. I think it's like a 2-minute one, but just to sit down, think about your day, breathe, and just in your mind, close it out. Close the book on the day, walk out of your office, close the lid to your laptop, whatever that looks like for you, and actually feel like you're leaving your workday behind you. It's pretty fantastic. But at the end of it all, don't forget to disconnect. Teams makes it so easy to work. So easy. But with the great power of teams comes great responsibility to ourselves, to our friends, and to our family to disconnect and be present with the people around you. Staying connected 24/7 is not a good thing. I think some of us, I know I've had bosses this way, wear a badge of honor that they're overworked. It's not healthy, right? So take some time, disconnect and unplug. And yeah, I literally created this slide in the car on the mobile app on the way to dinner one night. But hey, right? We were just in the car. It's fine. I was not driving. Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining. If anyone has any questions, we've got a little bit of time. I went a few minutes over. Apologies for that. But I would love feedback and appreciate everyone taking the time to be with me today.
All right, thank you, Joy. We are on spot on time. Don't worry, we have 4 minutes, right, for Q&A. But I think you already engaged with most of the comments and everything, so I think we haven't missed anything. Just yeah, friendly reminder on the evaluation. Fill it in. It's definitely an interesting session. Recognize myself in several areas there. Yeah, I was serious about the boss checking me as a mobile worker if I showed up at work. So won't disclose the company, but that was fun. For almost 2 years, that was the same principle by.
Oh, wow.
And I was 10 years there as a mobile worker, so yeah, it was weird.
I was a consultant for a company helping them implement SharePoint 2013. And one of the directors of the company was sitting there. We were talking after a meeting, and she said, I don't understand how you can make sure people are doing their jobs if they're not at their desk. And I said, but I'm here at this conference room table, not at my desk doing my job. And she just kind of looked at me. It was like, trust me, especially there's certain roles out there. If people aren't doing their job, you're going to know pretty fast.
Yeah, you notice.
Done.
Yeah, the problem is if you don't notice, you're not doing your job then. So we have some question from Jay here. Are you finding these capabilities helping when you have a surge in work, which I know you are currently? So it's kind
I currently am having a surge in work. So I've been moving around my virtual commute time because it seems like no matter when it asks me if I'm ready to end my day, I'm looking at it going, no, I'm not ready to end my day. But the Headspace stuff does definitely help me. If I start getting frustrated, and I have stepped into a new role, which feels a little overwhelming at times at Pate Group, but I have an awesome team and we have awesome customers and we have awesome tools. So I'll take a few minutes and I will go through one of the Headspace exercises. I will close Outlook. I will close Outlook fast if I'm getting overwhelmed and just kind of focus on, I'll go to my to-do, find the top 3 priorities and just make that, where I go to focus.
Yeah, it's nice. I used to like the Windows Phone Outlook capability of shutting down and switching to manual email, send and receive. That was neat after 5 or 6 in the afternoon, even before COVID. I mean, okay, Windows Phone, it's obviously before COVID, so.
Sure.
Yeah, but I have been a mobile worker for most of my work life, so.
Yeah. I have been for about 5 years now, and even before then, I traveled quite a bit. So I can't speak to Android functionality because I don't have an Android, but I love the new focus options on iPhone, and I set my work focus. I've got my mom, my mother-in-law, and my husband are the only 3 people that can break through. And other than that, it's set. So like, I don't see the badges, I don't see icons, I don't get notifications. And it's one less distraction too. That helps quite a lot.
Yeah, that's definitely neat.
I love it.
All right, I think that's all for this session as per the time. Thank you again. Very insightful and interesting. I believe everybody enjoyed it. Fill in the forms, evaluation, and a couple of minutes for them till the next session. If you need to discuss something additionally, please visit the lounge area. And thank you again, Joy, and have a nice rest of the day.
Thank you. This has been a pleasure.